This is just an old video. This is just something I am just cleaning out my old computer at the moment and just getting rid of all of my videos. So I just decided, well, why not? Somebody can probably enjoy them on YouTube or something. I have to warn, it's full of mistakes. It's just plagued with problems. And these are just videos that I just started doing before the top 288 Legend of Zelda bosses. So just a heads up, if you find problems, that's why. Alright, so anyways, I wouldn't really consider them entertaining in any way. These are just kind of my starter videos and what I used to practice on it before I started up my channel properly. They were on my channel at one point, but I just decided to take them down. So, alright, make of them as you will. And, well, hope you enjoy. Useless items are items that are used less. Well, that was useless. You probably think I'm talking about inventory hoggers, but there are ones that are used far less than other items that have nothing related to your playing style. Plus, doesn't it get annoying when a character gives you a weapon you have to use on something which is far inferior to your own weapons? Automation systems are a gag to strategy, not just because you're leaving those accursed battles called AIs on the path to botch, bomb, and bust, but can also flip the coin of winning the game for you. Last I checked, I'm usually the one that likes pressing buttons. Well, let's see what other DVDs we got here. Bear with me on this, but I think this is interesting and your experiences will be different. Usually when a game comes out for a popular series, they usually say it's a good game or it's a bad game. However, when I asked about Assassin's Creed 3 back then, it was a simple Desmond is dumb. Very few reviews, easily forgettable. What did these games do that can't be spoken of? Linearity and choices are their own cars, nothing wrong with that. However, once you start seeing a choices engine, you realize you're on a different ride from the simple level jump system. However, if a sign is telling you one way is the carnival and one way is to the graveyard, and you realize they both lead to the graveyard, you realize you've been duped into a one-way travel ticket. Thankfully this isn't common, but when it matters, it'll really start kicking you in the legs. It's not a heavy crotch shot, but they'll either do two things that will follow up with that is just as unforgiving. One, they'll try twisting your leg because teams can't stand on their own 2 feet to get you to join them, or two, they'll try breaking them off because they have no souls. Well, a leg for a leg. Can I be frank with you about tanks, about ganks from your rear bank? It feels like a real prank when games crank on your rank and you become sunk. Whoops, wrong tense. I'll stop now. Tanks in video games feel suited to their controls because they're mechanical, but that's the problem. Apply that to the humans and it doesn't feel as organic. Oh no, it's coming! Stay back! Stay back! Oh my gosh, you suck. What's the point? De-leveled level. Shoot, I thought palindromes would work. Now losing everything isn't as bad as it seems. Trust me, it's not so bad.
Oh crap, holy fetch. Come on, where is it? This is so unprofessional. Come on, I know it's somewhere around here.
Okay, I take that back. Losing valuable items and weapons is a surefire way to get a permanent game over in those later sections of the game. Unfinished releases just baffle me. They're pretty rare, but when one slips through, you're like, were the beta testers paid extra to keep quiet? You should never, ever see this as an excuse to get something out. It's just one thing, nobody will mind it. Yeah, equivalent to shoving a boot in my face. Yeah, that's pretty subtle. Sometimes a game feels obligated to pull you aside, give you a script, then shove you right back out into the playing field and you say, but I don't know my lines. And the game says, don't worry, you're gonna do great. Then when the game over start directing multiple takes, you kick the director's chair over and scream, you know who's in control? Meat. There's a difference in expecting the unimaginable to being completely ignorant. Once upon a time there was this dragon that roamed the kingdom that spits out flowers. What? Flowers? Why? Is he cursed? Next page, and they lived happily ever after. The end. Unrealistic? That's fine, we can live with that, but keep the connections in place. Let's see, concept art, behind the scenes of the game, interviews. Aw, the story's done. I'd like to kill a few hours trying to work for something, but I guess the developer keeps forgetting that I'm playing a game, not for an art piece. Why does it feel like they're patronizing me with their ego with this game? If there's one thing everyone knows about other players, if they find an exploit, they will use it, and hey, why not? No one's watching, no one's judging us, plus we get the personal satisfaction. Bottom line, exploits are bugs in the code, and we can't have that for good games, especially if they're out to announce doomsday for multiplayer games. This usually happens in RPGs where a lower stat grabs onto the bottom of your shirt and you start dragging it around with you. To make matters worse, sometimes games will take the time to completely waste the stat, leaving you out on a limb until a game over is inevitable. You may make the argument to defend against it, but pick your poison. Keep attacking for a miracle or waste time with a repeated movement. Now this one, I have a strong personal story with this, because I like Dynasty Warriors. Thumbs up to Josh, but that's another story for another day. When I played up at college, this is the first complaint I get. Why the flip do they say the same crap over and over? This is why it's bad. Why the flip do they say the same crap over and over? Not fun, is it? I'll explain this one. There are games that are perfect, gives us everything we need for an awesome game, except there happens to be the one fluke that doesn't fit the label. It's one of those mechanics where at one point or another it'll come back to haunt you because it's a requirement of the game. Most of the time anyways. Not too big a cliche, but it's there. Have you ever told a joke or explained something but you can't get your point across? That's either because it's too complicated or it's too unnecessary. Game developers sometimes have this idea of, it's totally new, everyone will love it, and we like change, but from our views we tilt our head to the side and we're like, I don't get it. Could you simplify it or give it a purpose? Be prepared, I'm touching on the multiplayer now. There are some that avoid co-op games online for a purpose, and that's because strategy isn't pinned down per standard. And think about this, everyone can be anything. There's no definitive role for anyone. Because the game doesn't lay out the plan and video gamers think their own minds are the greatest ever, this will lead to some only I'm important moments. What, 82? Are you serious? I chose it at this rank because it may be the most common cliche, it's also one of the least harmful. I mean, the connections don't fit. Can you picture this? Ocarina of Time is the worst game ever because I can slash Goma's green eye. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is the worst game of all time because Robotnik is so stupid. No, that's not a deal breaker. When the Countdown making community started talking about the silent protagonist, I was curious why it was a problem of late, and here's my thoughts on it. I think it's the gaps. Chell from Portal didn't seem to be a problem because it's GLaDOS talking in the gameplay to keep you occupied. It gets weird when they get asked a question or there's silence. It leaves a big gaping hole of awkwardness. This involves rubber band AI, nonsense changes to gameplay, or anything that messes with the normal mechanics at certain moments. It's as stupid as a rule change. Have you ever played Monopoly and made up a rule for free parking? Just imagine that, except the developer says, if either of us land on that, I get $500. Oh yeah, you don't ever get anything. Hardly noticeable when you try to hide it. No, the other guy. That other guy. No, the one that doesn't keep zapping me with electricity when I hit him. The problem is that sometimes you want to hit the guys further in the back so you don't have to keep getting hit with objects, or the auto-aiming keeps zooming in on that same single target. The worst is when you take too long with your attacks to get exposed. Ah! Puzzles are so cool, but like everything else, someone has to dig into the creative backs to bring us some really cool stuff. But there are two sides to this. One, the developers think, well, they like that in the past, but don't improve on it much. Or two, they feel the deadline, give in to the weakness, and say, that's good enough, when it doesn't scream original or puzzling. Now this one is a bit controversial because there are games based around this, but for some it isn't an enjoyable experience. Think of it like this, you have a starting Pokemon, you leveled up to 50, you've raised it well, you know everything about it, and you can't live without it. Well, imagine if the game by script took it from you, for good. In the mood to level up another Pokemon? Sometimes RPGs have holes, and players can find ways around these numbers to bring it to this. Step 1, Step 2, the battle's over. That's fine if it's for a while, but it gets a little ridiculous when it comes to this will win the game. Or if you want to look at it out of RPGs, it's pretty much enter the room, apply power up, repeat. Kind of saps the strategy out of it, doesn't it? Something we can agree on is balance. The player shouldn't be too powerful or the bad guy shouldn't be too powerful. So when a bad guy swings at you and you get hit, you back away and you switch your strategies. Seems fair.
The bad guy does this too when you strike. Sounds great. Oh wait, they don't? They just fall down and let themselves get hit? Well, bad guys like getting hit on. Wait. Explosive barrels aren't bad because they're in every FPS and TPS that ever exists. It's bad because of their textbook answer to every gunfight. Think about this, every barrel is behind enemy lines, they're in enemy groups, and most importantly, talk about a thrill killer. I've got 1 clip left, 4 guys left, not going to have enough ammo. Oh wait, there's a barrel. That's convenient? You're probably like, I know failing is an accident. It's not like I woke up this morning to fail a game on purpose. No, I'm talking about those moments about whether you give it your all or nothing. You'll fail anyways. What? There are games like that? They're scares, but when they come, beware. There's an involuntary pride shredder sitting out there. I'm not talking about those games that give you checkpoints at every corner or I want to be the guy players who choose to have those troll experiences. I'm delving into the games where you enter a section, then the mechanics will slap you, drag you into the corner, then say, try again. By the way, those mechanics will be stalking you in every room. Good luck. Now, the invisible walls make sense, and they don't. Boundaries are inevitable. In Donkey Kong 64 or Super Mario Sunshine, you're restricted to an island, so it makes sense. It gets bad when there are subtle hints that more can be explored. And as a gamer, you want to explore the world around you, but when you suddenly get yanked back on that leash, not a cool game. I could go all computer programmer on you, but I won't do that, so I'll keep it simple. Imagine you're building a 500-piece puzzle. Naturally, you'll go for the corner pieces first and work your way in. No. That's the lazy way to do it because it takes forever with its step 1, step 2 system. Instead, if the developers put in the hard work to do all the steps at once, the video game world will be a happier place. It doesn't matter if you lay left, roll right, bounce back, or flip forward. Sometimes there will be situations where it doesn't matter. This is a norm for RPG players, numbers are numerous, but I'm talking about those games where you can dodge something, but there's an extreme moment where the game says, when I drop this anvil, you're gonna feel how Wile E. Coyote feels in his stunts. This is RPGs towards the end of the game, though it can branch out a bit, especially in summoning moves. While the visuals are awesome for a first time seeing, it fulfills the video out of the video game. Neglecting the second half of that term isn't exactly a smart way to go. I just thought of something. Out of those 100 hours you spent playing this game, how many hours do you think was on this? Like every cliche on here, it doesn't determine the whole package as the game, but it's still part of it, so it's important. Nowadays, video games have stories, and like good stories, when we play them through, we simply want the endings to be worthwhile. That's a fair expectation. I can see where they're coming from. You put in the hours, it's only nice to get a decent reward for your hard work. This has happened to you in a first-person shooter. You try shooting at a guy above an obstacle or around a tight spot and the bullet doesn't connect. Instead, it sparks off the invisible barrier. The worst situation that can come out of this is when enemies can hit you from behind obstacles like from last-second dives. If you think I'm only looking at first-person shooters, your hitbox is way off. During adventure games, sometimes games like to slip in a quick mini-game somewhere, wherever and evermore. This sounds faithful and imaginative, but it's usually gimmicky and repetitive. It's not just single player, but sometimes it's slapped on as a quick minigame tab on the main menu you can play with your friends. I don't see anyone jumping for these. Limbo is where you put in the effort, then the bad guy puts in some effort, then they cancel each other out and you're left with a big fat 0 in progress. This usually applies to beginners in strategy games, but because there aren't mechanics put in to start stirring the pot, these battles can last for a very long time. Don't you love League of Legends matches that can go for more than 45 minutes? Unbalanced gameplay is when the game deliberately picks a side. I'm talking cheating worthy. This issue is common with online or free-to-play games where the argument is that paying your way to victory is the way to go. No! That's like saying better cars can get above the law. It doesn't work that way. Also, don't you love it when you discover the computer is nosing around in stuff it shouldn't be? No, you don't. Am I insisting that there be hints or radar everywhere? No, because scavenging can be pretty fun and it means that the game is smart enough to let you figure it out. No fun comes out of a one-way road and beating the game. It does get bad though when the game tells you to find a marble in the football field. Where do you begin? World 1? Nope. World 2? Nope. Up to World 8? The last one? No. Ah! If there are different characters that are optional to play as, you know, because they're not my gaming style, awesome. I can keep using mine, and there are cases where it's cool to be different characters because of the interesting gameplay. However, sometimes games throw a pile of bricks into your backpack your character's been making it easy on. This might take some adjusting, and not the good kind. It's respectful to understand why the world likes or doesn't like something. For example, FPS shooters nowadays like Call of Duty. Large group likes it, large group doesn't. Why? Well, part of the reason could be that old FPS shooters used to revolve around medkits, holding multiple guns, etc. But if the new games don't mix in old and new, but sticks to copy and paste, yeah, I can understand that. Games don't usually ask for your all, but whether it be required or optional, the game sometimes throws a checklist at your feet that requires a check through all of its pages. The fun part about this is the trial and error. You try levels over and over and over and over again, almost like committing to a hobby in itself. These are awesome for completionists, but for everyone else, it could be an unnecessary chore. What's interesting for final bosses, at least for me, is that when I fight them, sometimes I think the final boss is ahead or that the boss will transform, giving me that true challenge I've spent hours leveling up my characters for from that other boss. What's also unnerving is that how common this cliché is. It doesn't matter if it's a good or a bad game, you know you're thinking about this when the final battle begins. Civilian jumps between you and the enemy, you shoot him, objective failed, protect all civilians, start over. What really doesn't help is when annoying factors come in like explosive weapons, enemies and civilians in the worst spots possible, and oh yeah, shoot anyone friendly in an FPS shooter. You get a quote or a handheld message afterwards. Want a way to stop the hero of the world terrorists? Get civilians. Every game needs money. Well, except probably a few cases in indie games or demos. I don't think there's a problem with games like Facebook asking for money because that's optional. This is the bane of every paying customer is when a game says you need $3.99 to get to the next level in a full game. Video games don't ever do this. We paid enough. Don't ever rub your fingers and thumb together. I'm talking about rush games, I'm talking about game crashes, I'm talking about corrupt save files. They're a little on the uncommon side, but it's unforgivable that good games are getting punctured to drain their quality. Each generation that passes, the harder it is to make games, but this goes for everything then and now. You can't make shortcuts, there's no substitute for quality media. Well, it may be true there are ship shooters like Gladius, that's not what this is. Okay, I lied, that's exactly what this is about. But it can go farther than those genres though. This usually applies to fast vehicle sections in video games. You know, where you have like 5 seconds to try learning the controls before you turn it to jelly. This can also apply into games with side-scrolling. It's rare, but we still don't like it. This is almost a meme, and not to rule anyone out, everyone who says that they've had a worst moment or killjoy in a video game usually involves bad stealth mechanics and no checkpoints, because they're a lethal mix. The worst cases are when video games throw them on you out of nowhere, but the game just doesn't pull it off right. There doesn't have to be stealth in every game. Let me scribble that on your forehead. Because of Ninja Gaiden and Castlevania, this cliché is the cause to so much controllers being thrown and sanity's getting reactor meltdowns. Though you may be curious why it's up this high, this is rather limited. This is because in quite a few games, enemies will clip into your character or keep knocking you back consistently. Because of little invincibility frames to cause more damage. Don't get anyone started on those. Is this seriously 51? Because it feels so much higher. Checking through top 50? Yeah, this is the right entry. I think I'm going to and this entry is not helping. Video games just how? You just can't. You just can't. Why do games put us on these tightropes demanding us to cross? Why do they demand us to waste our one life? They can't be beat.